Okay, I'm sat with Callum, who's one of my very close friends. I've been given an assignment by the college to interview someone, so I thought I would interview Callum on his Ford Orion, which is behind us. So, firstly, Callum, what do you do?
I'm a joiner, or well, apprentice joiner. Just not long went into my third year. It's got its ups and its downs, but still love my job. So,
So, is that what you want to do in the future? You got any aspirations, any goals?
hopefully one day own my own business, but it's a bit, difficult in the current times. Everything costs a fortune. So, but maybe one day.
So, in everything you do career-wise, are cars a motivating factor? Do they motivate you to work harder?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like when I look at everything that's like wrong with the Orion, it motivates me to work harder, make more money, so I can have the time and money to fix it. So
So, what got you into cars, and how long have you been into cars?
oof, a bit of a difficult one because I've always kind of been on off with cars since I was younger. Um, I think like the real turning point for me was when I was around about 6 or 7. My cousin had a Mitsubishi Evo. It was like around 700 brake or something like that, and that was probably the real turning point where I was like, "Wow, this is like what I want to do when I grow up," kind of thing.
And what's kept you interested, like over the years? Do you think?
Um, I don't know. It's different. I mean, you don't really see a lot of like young people, young boys or girls that are into the car scene nowadays. I mean, you just don't know how to describe it. I mean, like that, for example, like the Orion, like you stand out when you drive about in it. Like it's cool. It makes you feel cool. So I guess it's that. I just think it's cool.
So, how long ago did you pass your test, and what cars have you owned previously? What car did you pass your test in?
So I passed my test in January 2023, so nearly 2 years ago now. And I passed my test in a Mark 6 Fiesta, 2007 plate. It was the best first car ever, but unfortunately I wrote that off. After I wrote that off, I bought another Mark 6 Fiesta, a 2008 plate. It was another good car, just unfortunately the engine blew up on that one. So I then bought a 95 Mark 1 Mondeo um, to use for the rest of the winter while I was trying to figure out what was wrong with this thing. So, and this thing, I bought this thing in November last year and only got it on the road in April this year, just in time for summer, after a load of problems. So, four cars.
Would you recommend the Mark 6 Fiesta as a good platform for a first car?
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive community around them. They're easy to get bits for. They're really, really easy to work on. It's just unfortunately they're now turning to like what some of them are 20 years old, so played with rust, and some of them aren't really been looked after properly and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, 1.25 Mark 6, you can't really go wrong, eh?
So, moving on to the Orion, you're a big fan of them, obviously, but where did your love for them start? And is there a certain memory or a certain story that sticks out to you?
It's the Orion was one of my dad's first cars. Well, it was his first car. He had an F-Reg Mark II Orion, 1.6 injection. Absolutely loved it, and I guess ever since he told me the story of him racing a Tigra and writing it off, I've always thought, oh, I'd love to own one just to like bring back a memory from my dad as such. So I mean, that's the Orion that I've got. It's not a Mark II, it's a Mark III, but still does the job, eh? It brings back a memory from my dad. So, and he enjoys it, I enjoy it.
So, you mentioned your dad. Was your family always loyal to Ford, and did this influence your taste?
Oh, 100%. I mean, my granddad, all he's ever had is Fords. My dad's kind of changed it up a little bit. He's not always been Ford loyal, but usually end up back in a Ford. And then me, I've only ever owned Ford since I started driving.
So, did you go out of your way to find an Orion, or was it by chance? And were there any other like dream cars that you were kind of considering buying at the same time?
It was totally by chance with it, Ryan. It just kind of, I was at my work, it popped up, and I was like, oh, I fancy that. Messaged the guy, went and see it, and then bought it. When I bought it, it didn't run and stuff like that. So obviously, like I said, had it off the road during the winter and got it running, and here we are. So yeah, dream car. I never really had anything else like I was like planning to buy it. It was just kind of, oh, if something came up, I would maybe buy that or this, that, or the next thing, you know.
Sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself, but how did you find the car and was it particularly expensive?
So I found the car on Facebook. It was on a Scottish Retros page, advertised as it had an issue with the ignition system, so it didn't run right. So obviously, like I said, messaged the boy, went and seen it, blah blah blah.
Was there anything that put you off, or like was it just a no brainer that you wanted it?
The not the non-running thing kind of put me off a little bit because like at that stage I didn't really know everything about cars. So that kind of put me off a little bit, threw myself in the deep end a little bit. But no, nothing else put me off. I mean, it's a really, really tidy example for the year. It's I would say it's been well looked after. It hasn't really, it has been messed about with, but this is all stuff that can get sorted. So that's the plans for this winter.
Cool. Uh, did you find any other issues after you bought it?
Oh, loads of issues, loads of issues. So, when I bought it, I thought, oh, it just needs the ignition system changed. But turns out it was needing the ignition system changed. I had to put a new carb on it. It also had a headlight out, which I thought was a bulb, but turns out the headlight wiring is just non-existent. So it only has one headlight on depth beam. About a couple of months ago, it started not starting. God knows why. Thought it was an ignition switch. Turns out it wasn't. So kind of investigating into that now, but still no further forward from when it started doing that. So yeah.
How were the first few months of owning the car? And obviously you weren't, but like were you excited to drive it immediately?
Oh, 100%. Like the first few months is like amazing. Like I had a great time driving the car. I mean, I think within a month of having it out on the road, I think I managed to do like 1,500 miles in it or something like that, and it cost me a fortune on petrol. But I just loved every minute of driving it, and like as much as it plagues me with issues, like I still do love every minute of driving it. It's just so much fun. I mean, it is only a 1.4, so it's kind of limited that way, but it's amazing. Like you'll never get the same feeling as in a new car as you will in something like that. It's just so like raw. You feel so like, I don't know how to describe it, in contact with the road and stuff like that. That you can feel every little bump and like every little slide and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely, I love driving that car.
What kind of issues did you run into once you'd bought the car, and do you think it's expanded your skill set mechanically?
I would say it's definitely like expanded my skill set 100% because there's like I've never worked with carbs in my life. I've never worked with ignition systems, nothing like that. Like wiring, I'm still not very good at wiring. I'm just kind of trying to learn how to do that just now. But yeah, 100%. I've definitely learned a lot from this car. And aye,
So would you say you feel more confident in your ability to like go out and work on a car than you did before?
yeah, yeah, I would. I would. I guess it's difficult because I wouldn't go and look at a new car and say, oh, I can fix that because I couldn't. But I could look at something as simple as this and go, I know what's wrong with it. I can fix that. It'll take me 5 minutes, kind of thing. So,
So when did you get the car on the road, and how did that feel? How was that time?
I got the car on the road the end of March, start of April, because my Mondeo that I was running about in burst the brake line on that, and just couldn't get around to fixing it. So there was kind of a bit of a rush to get the Orion on the road. So I had a car for running about in because we were away to the lakes in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, it's just rushed into it, and aye,
And you've been using it every day since?
every day other than when it had the exhaust put on it, and maybe a couple of days I've been picked up from my work. But aye, every day since April.
And you mentioned the lakes there. Is that the furthest you've taken it, or done
Yeah,
any other big trips?
aye, the furthest I've been with it is the Lake District. Again, that was an amazing trip. Learned how the car felt and kind of discovered a little bit some more issues with the car and stuff like that and what needed doing. And what has now been done. So, yeah.
So moving on to how the Orions had like an impact on your life, have you had any acknowledgements from other enthusiasts, and how do you think it's affected your circle? And have you met any new like people, friends through the car?
It's definitely expanded my circle a little bit. I know a lot more people who are into their old Fords now. You know, like when I first got it, I was struggling to find bits, and like now I could like give you a list of people that I know where I could get bits from and stuff like that. It definitely does get attention because like you never seen Mark III Orions. I mean, even when they came out, they weren't really that popular, and then when the scrappage scheme came, they they were gone because you know it's a Ford. They're pretty rusty, eh?
So does driving the Orion bring you a sense of pride? Would you say something you've worked on yourself?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It gives me a sense of like again like coolness as such. Like I'm driving about and I think, where else are you going to see one of these and somebody my age driving it? Like never.
You're right. Do you have a favourite memory with the car, and how did it make you feel?
Oh, favorite
Like
memory.
a moment.
Ooh. Probably not a favorite memory as such, but like a favorite memory of a trip was the Lake District. Like honestly, it taught me so much about how much the car handled. Like it taught me so much about like driving skill and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably my favourite memory with the car is going down to the Lake District, discovering all those new roads, and like I said, learning about the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And to flip that totally on its head, what's been your least favourite part of owning the car, and how did that have an effect on you?
The not starting issue is the least favourite thing about the car. Having to go out to my work, like walk out the house in the morning and push it down the street to bump start it, is just not it, unfortunately. Especially when it's cold and rainy, which it usually always is in Scotland. So that's probably my least favourite memory about it.
Understandably. What do your friends and family think of the car, and have they been supportive with it?
Friends all been supportive with it, 100%. I mean, like the week that I was pushing to try and get it on the road, it was like just my friends that were helping me. Because again, like I said, my knowledge wasn't great, so it was just like we'll do this, we'll do that, and see if we can get it working. And hey, presto, we got it working. My mum and dad, my mum thinks I should just buy something new. She thinks it's rubbish. You know, my dad likes it. But my dad also thinks that I should buy something new and reliable and stop daily driving that. But I just enjoy it too much. And like my grandparents, I mean, I stay right next door to my grandparents. My granddad loves it. He thinks it's amazing. And my grand's kind of just not really bothered, to be honest with you. So, yeah, my friends and family, friends approve of it. Family are kind of 50-50, depending who you ask.
So, your future plans for the car, obviously, you're planning to keep it.
Mhm.
Um, so, what do you plan to do to it?
So over the winter, the Mondeo that I was speaking about earlier, it's got a 2 litre engine in it. So I'm currently taking the engine out of that to go into this over the winter. I'll hopefully do an underside restoration on it, get everything looking like it's just rolled off the factory. Um, you know, interior, new speakers, fix the wiring, fix the starting issue, just like loads of bits and bobs that need done. You know, touch ups here and there, some painting, like getting rid of some dents, just make it look a lot more presentable than what it already is. So yeah, that's the plans. Plans for it soon. Fingers crossed I can get it all done, but unfortunately it costs a lot of money.
Has the Orion influenced or changed the way you look at cars and driving in general?
100%. I mean, I was like, when I first started driving, I would say I was probably swayed more towards having like a chavvy car that was like loud and fast and would just get you in bother and having all these like ridiculous mods done to it. Whereas now I just prefer a cool car that you don't see, something that gets appreciated and kind of like an OEM plus styling towards modifications. So nothing that's too flamboyant, but still flamboyant enough that it stands out. So
Cool. Well, thanks very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed learning about Callum's Orion and Callum in general.
actually went up.